Welcome to the B-Sides and Beers podcast.
Welcome to B-Sides and Beers, episode 26. Tonight we're digging into Soundgarden Superunknown, 1994. Our guest tonight is Ryan Summerfield, vocalist of hardcore band Deck Piss and ex-stoner rock band Big Dirty out of Hamilton, Ontario. How are we doing?
Doing great, man.
Right on.
Glad to be here. Nice to meet you guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Yeah,
likewise.
Nice to meet you, Mike. Finally.
Yeah, definitely. After all of our interweb back and forth, and it's funny. Most of the anybody that we've brought on guest wise seems to be met through IG. So
that's the way it is these days.
Yeah,
I was looking at the telephone line on the side of my house today, and I was like, we could probably rip that thing off.
Yeah, you don't need that
and my
anymore.
fiance's like, well, I don't know. Maybe we might want a landline. And who knows, right? Who knows what's going to happen in 5-10 years?
Or 6 months.
I live in a really old house. There's probably 20 or 30 different phone lines on the outside of my house that are redundant and just don't make any sense. And I've been meaning to rip them off forever. What are these things?
Right?
Why are there 3 bell boxes on the side of my house? I don't even have bell.
Oh, man, we got a satellite dish on the side of our house, and it's like, it just looks bad.
What's that?
What's a satellite dish, right?
Is that bird catcher?
Yeah. When I was a kid, those things were so cool.
Oh, the big ones, like the ones that,
Remember the
that
big
could
ones,
be in your backyard.
yes,
Like
8 feet.
Yeah.
The giant, yeah.
In the corner of the backyard, and your dad would yell at you for going near it. Don't mess with my satellite.
I need to watch my shows.
Yeah.
Right?
You're going to screw up my hockey feed.
Yeah.
non-scrambled porno. That's what you're looking for.
Oh, man. The nonsense.
Hey, that's an art right there. You got to figure that one out, right?
The kids these days won't know anything about that.
Right?
No, they don't even get it.
Yeah. The amount of imagination we needed to like implement.
But they give you the first like 2 minutes. Remember that? They'd give you like first 2 and then cut you right off.
Oh, yeah, the teasers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
Done.
Yeah, you'd be halfway through, and it's like, oh, my God. Yeah, a bunch of kids are on their phone searching right now. Scrambled porno. There's no such thing as scrambled porno. What are you talking about? This isn't a genre of porn.
Or is it?
Yeah.
It could be, but there's some whackers out there.
It could be. Yeah.
Take you way back.
I got to do some research.
Oh, man.
So, Dane, tell us about your adventures in, holy shit, how expensive can beer possibly be in your neck of the woods?
So I'm on Vancouver Island. Love it, except for the price of beer here. And I have a feeling it's just like, it's like gas prices where like one station sees another station raise the price and they're like, us too. It has nothing to do with any sort of like, established like set price. It's just like a bunch of people seeing what they can get away with. So I'm at my liquor store, and they're great because they sell singles, and there's like a big section in the back. You grab whatever craft beer you want. And I see a can for fucking $6.99, and this is before tax.
Nuts.
So I'm that guy standing like in the middle of the aisle swearing out loud, and everyone's like,
motherfucker,
you need that beer.
Yeah.
Just get it, buy it, drink it. And I'm taking a picture and I like send it to you guys, circle the price in red. Like, this is fucking crazy. It's $8 with tax for a can of beer.
Wow, man.
Was it worth it?
No, it's a fucking sour something or other. Like, all you're gonna taste is sour, whatever, apricot or whatever the fuck flavor it was. Like, I don't know. You know what? Maybe I should buy it and taste it first before I.
Probably tastes so good.
Yeah, probably. And it's like the brewery is like a good one. Like I like the brewery, but it's just I've never like a pint of beer for $8 is expensive.
Yep.
Or am I just getting old?
No, man. That's pricey.
Yeah, but I think like at a beer, like at a bar setting, $8 is pretty par for the course as far as a pint goes.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, when you're looking at like a
the
Guinness
beer
or an
store-
import or something, I can kind of see that. But yeah, anything over, I don't know, anything over 5 is nuts to me right now. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of lucky. I live a couple blocks away from a local brewery, and they're pretty well known across the area. And maybe it's because I'm in Ontario, but a 6-pack of Lager Shed at the brewery down the road is $10.
Nice.
That's awesome.
So, and it's good beer. Like, I'm not a huge beer drinker. I like whiskey, but if I am drinking beer, I don't mind beer at all.
Right.
So, I consider myself a little bit lucky in that way.
Yep.
So I don't know what it's like out there, but in Ontario, beer prices are definitely better.
well, it's not all that bad for regular size cans. It's just when you get into the tall boys and the smaller craft stuff. I mean, you can grab something from Caribou Brewery there, and it's relatively inexpensive. It's like $8 for a 6-pack, or
Yeah.
I think it's like $18 for a 15-pack. So
You get a free hat with that one.
I haven't got one yet.
What? Really?
No, man.
You could buy
Still waiting.
We used to
you
have
could buy beer in the like 7-Eleven out there, can't you, Ryan?
now they sell them in certain grocery stores, but otherwise it's still very harshly
okay.
controlled.
that's
So either the LCBO, the Liquor Control Board of Ontario, or the beer store. But some grocery stores do have liquor aisles, but they're only open for certain hours of the day, so it's still kind of a trade-off.
right.
Yeah.
But all the local bars in our neighborhood or in our area, though, since COVID, they've been allowed to sell booze over the counter.
Wow.
So a lot of bars and stuff that I frequent and that I know the owners and things like that, it's very easy to get beer at 2-3 o'clock in the morning now.
Wow.
So that's kind of a bonus.
Sweet.
But the price is not great.
Desperate times.
So,
Two in the morning,
that's
you
what
need
you gotta
more.
do.
Yeah.
We used to have this beer in Hamilton called Lakeport, and the brewery was in Hamilton, and the big draw to Lakeport, it tasted like shit. It was the grossest. Like, I swear they used bay water to make this stuff. But the draw was, it was a buck of beer. You get a 24 bottle box for $24, and it was the most popular thing around, and everybody drank it, even though it tasted like garbage. A buck of beer, you can't go wrong.
Yeah.
And that only stopped 7 or 8 years ago when they shut down the brewery. So I mean, it wasn't all that long ago that beer was really cheap in this area.
Crazy. Well, I guess you pound your first 4 or 5, and then the rest of it goes down smooth, right? It don't even matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter after the first couple, but it matters the next morning when you got to go to the bathroom.
Definitely.
Yeah, no doubt.
You think Budweiser's bad? No, Lakeport was bad. But it did the trick, especially when you were like just getting out of high school and all you wanted to do is drink beer. So,
Yeah. Well, I think expensive beers to some extent is a good thing. I used to live in Holland, and there'd be like night shops all over the place, and you can get your, Belgian beer for €2, €3, which is probably around $4 or $5 here. But I mean, the convenience of it, and you can pick up something local like a Heineken for like $2. It just becomes like a problem. 'Cause
I can totally relate with that. I spent a lot of time in Ireland, and, especially in Dublin, Temple Bar, especially, like, Heineken is the tap of beer. And being super cheap and so accessible, basically everywhere you went had a Heineken tap. And it became a problem. You can see the locals were pretty well dependent on it.
I was surprised, man, that you could buy that in the vending machine. Like I couldn't believe that the first time I saw that when I was in Europe. Like, then they were giving out like Jupiler on the side of the road, just like, here you go. I'm like free beer. Like, they're just dishing it out.
Wow.
Yeah.
They used to do that here. There's a bar area, kind of like Temple Bar. It's in Hamilton. It's called Hess Village. And it's just a village full of bars, just 20 or 30 bars all in one strip. And they shut the streets down because the place just packs out every night. But in the middle of the village, there was a skate shop, and it's called DMBC. And all the high school kids used to hang out there during the day, getting the stickers and stuff, and trucks for the skateboard, stuff like that. We used to go there all the time. And the owner, Mike, he had a vending machine in the store, and it was a pop machine. You get Coke, Pepsi, whatever you wanted out there, but it was filled with beer.
Yeah.
So when you were in high school, when you were 16 years old, you go down to the embassy with $10 in your pocket, you're walking out of there with a backpack full of beer. It was fantastic.
That's great.
He needed a smoke vending machine too. The pole
Oh,
one.
man, those things.
fantastic.
Demorier Greens
How many
coming
hours I
out.
spent? How many hours did you spend in front of a convenience store asking every single person, "Hey man, if I give you the money, will you buy me a pack of smokes? Hey man,
Oh man. Yeah.
over and over and over again."
It was easier to get a dime bag than a 6-pack as a kid. And that was the thing, like you wanted both. So
You wanted,
Yeah.
"Hey mom, can I get $20 for milk and bread?" Yeah, no, dime bag and a pack of smokes.
Need some money to go down to the arcade to play some video games. And
Yeah, man. I got to go to Wizard's Castle.
yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay, and show of hands here. How many of you guys went to you picked my convenience store was the Red Rooster with a note from your parents saying that my son is here to pick up a whatever, like a carton of Demorier Light.
Yeah.
You just like show the note and they're like, fine.
Yep, I did that.
We had a store close to the house. It was called the Quick Pig Mart. It had this big pink pig on the sign. It was funny. And my mother would send me down to the store with a note that just said, "Please sell my son cigarettes. Here's my phone number if you have any questions." But I didn't have any money because I was only like 14 years old. But I'd go down there and I'd buy her Craven A's or whatever the heck she wanted.
Yeah.
And they had these little 5-packs of cigarettes. There's like almost like a baseball card pack with the foil wrapper.
Yep.
There was 5 cigarettes in it, and they were called Anchor cigarettes, and they were 50 cents each. So I'd say, I always go down there and I'd say, "Here, give me a pack of Craven A's and give me 4 packs of Anchors," and they wouldn't even question it. So I blame the note for starting me on smoking when I was like 13, 14 years old. And here I am, 39 years old, still smoking.
Champion.
Because I have an addictive personality and I can't do it.
But a 5-pack, man, like talk about what's going to get you addicted. Like 5-pack of cigarettes.
Yeah.
That's perfect for starting out.
Absolutely.
Right? That's all you need.
Yeah, and it's so small
crazy.
that
That
you
would
can
make you
conceal it
pop.
too.
Yeah, exactly. It's perfect.
Yeah. And you could sell them at school for $1
Right.
a pack.
Yeah, the markup, 100% markup. Wow.
Oh,
Well, should we do the rounds? What we're
Let's
drinking tonight, or
let's do that. Go ahead, man.
Sure, yeah. So I've got my standard Aerosmith Blonde Ale. I love this beer. It's basically like every weekend I get it. It's really nice. So this is a 4.8%.
Yeah.
I guess you would call that like a table beer. You're just drinking for taste.
Yep.
But it's like probably one of the best like blonde ales I've had, and I keep going back to it. It's so good. So that's Mount Aerosmith Brewery. Sorry, out of Parksville.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah. I've also got their. I got like 4-pack here, so I've got their low pressure porter, which is also awesome, 6%, and for whatever reason, I just stopped drinking like dark beers for like a really long time, and
to make you fat.
maybe
And
that's
you
it. I don't know.
and you feel it more the next morning when you got to take a dump.
Yeah, pretty much. Like figure and dump. Those are the two things I worry about constantly. But low pressure porter, awesome. It's so tasty. It's just like my nice dark beer in between like my whatever. And like this is Twin Sails Brewing is probably, I think, one of the best breweries out there right now. They're out of Port Moody, and this one's called a Dat Juice.
Cool.
It's a 5.2, but it's got like an orange on it. And it does have that kind of citrusy taste, but like the really cool thing about this is they don't add any kind of fruit. Like the ingredients are water, malt, wheat, hops, and yeast. So out of their wizardry, or however they mix those like 5 ingredients together, they make it taste citrusy. So it's a really nice beer. And then I just grabbed this Saison from Viewfield. Oh, it's a driftwood. So driftwood's good. I like driftwood.
Yeah.
So it's a Viewfield Saison, and 6.3 says strong beer on it. Probably is.
Ooh.
So we'll give that one a shot. Yeah,
Cool.
Nice.
that's all I have for show and tell.
Well, I'm not like I said before, I'm not a huge beer drinker. I do like beer once in a while. My go-to is the local, they call it the Lager Shed Brewery. It's Sean and Ed Brewery here in Dundas, Ontario. They have a real nice blonde lager that I enjoy. And of course, like I mentioned before, the price is absolutely fantastic. The nice thing about it is their brewery is situated in an old roller rink here in Dundas. It's been
cool.
It's been refitted. The building's been around since the 1850s. I actually had the pleasure of being one of the sub-trades that did some of the door work on it, which was kind of nice to see. And they have live music all the time. They have a bar there. It's very open to the public. Walk in off the street whenever you want. It's very accessible. It's right downtown. Lots of parking. So they do it really, really well and clean and small town friendly. So I really enjoy their beer. And then, of course, my go-to normally is JP Weiser's
Nice.
rye whiskey.
Nothing wrong with the Weiser Hood.
Triple barrel. Yeah, triple barrel deluxe. That's out of Toronto.
Cool.
And then here just outside of Hamilton is Stony Creek. One of the nice ones is the 40 Creek triple barrel whiskey. It's becoming very, very nice locally anyway. I don't know what it's like out there. If you guys know who
Yeah, we get it over here.
I've had that before.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fantastic whiskey as well. So yeah, that's what I'm drinking now is the old
Right
lager.
on, man. They do like almost like a Bailey's type of cream liqueur, don't they?
They do a few different ones. The straight up 40 Creek rye whiskey is usually where I live. I don't like a lot of flavors in my whiskey. I like bitter. So I don't get into a lot of their like offcuts and their fruity ones or their caramels and things like that. But my wife likes they've got like a cream liqueur.
Right.
She really likes to mix in with her coffee. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's what's
Very cool.
Sweet.
Well, tonight I am going Bad Tattoo out of Penticton, British Columbia.
I love that name.
I fucking love Bad Tattoo Brewing Company, man. Their can images, artwork is always spot on and next level. And
do they take their art like local artists? Is that what they're doing there?
I'm not exactly sure where they get it from, but they must, because I mean, all of their cans have the exact same kind of theme to them. Like it's all the same artist. So,
right, that's cool.
Yeah, but
there's one in Hamilton called Collective Arts. They use only local artists.
Oh yeah.
To do all their cans, and they're fantastic artwork. Oh my god! Sorry. To
hey, no
interrupt,
worries,
but
man. That's awesome.
I just wanted to mention
That's
that.
so cool.
Yeah.
I like when they, breweries can step it up and add a little extra art to it, right? So, but this one is a whiskey sour ale, and I've always disliked sour ales until now, only because of this one. It's a 5.5%. Yeah, it's awesome. It's kind of got a little bit of lemon infused and what's that with hints of whiskey, which I can actually taste some of. So that's awesome. And the other one is also from Bad Tattoo. It's a Pina Colada milkshake IPA, 6%.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I bought this. They got these seasonal 4-pack sort of 4 tester packs, so it's like 4 different ones, and it stands out because quite often a lot of these companies they'll just do a 4-pack of the same. So I love having to, when you can find a mix, a variety pack, and it's killer. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Bad Tattoo. Do you know if they are Canada wide? Like, is that something that they ship across the country?
I would assume so, but I don't know. I mean, I haven't contacted anybody, outside of BC to say that they've actually, carried it. So maybe that's something you can dig into on your end there just to see, but it's well worth it. And, they do a really good product. So, and it's cool that it's, an hour, 2 hours from my house kind of thing. So
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to check that out.
Yeah.
I'm drinking Fernie Brewing Company, a Huckleberry Wheat Ale. What the huck? It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Yeah, I've never had this one before, but I went to a different liquor store this time, and they've got a whole singles pack in the back. So, and they had a little bit of everything. They had some craft breweries, like local ones, but they also had like some European stuff too. So it was good. Yeah. So I found kind of a new section to go to and some new ones to do, because the other one, like you said, Mike, like it's all 4-packs of the same stuff. And I'm not, unless I've tried it before and I know I like it, then I'll get it. But otherwise I don't want to waste 3 beers on maybe nothing. Right. So
yeah.
So,
well, it's never a waste. You're just not going to enjoy it.
Yeah. You're just gonna throw it down the gullet like a bird to try and get.
Yeah. So that's what I'm doing.
Find a really good chaser.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh.
Holy cow. These 2 albums. So I'm just going to start this off.
Okay. So
fucking unreal.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. The one album we're going to
The one album
at the moment. The one single album.
Yes.
Come on,
talk
man.
About anything you want.
Come on.
Dude, so good.
Now you're gonna have me waiting to what is the other album?
Yeah, nobody told Brian.
Next week
what?
I talk about the other album.
Yeah.
Oh. What a tease. What a tease.
It's got 2 of my favorite drummers in both of these bands. So
Really?
oh yeah, man.
There you go, man.
Yeah.
There you go.
And we can start with Matt Cameron. Right off the bat.
All right, at least tell me who the other.
Oh, I can't tell you
is.
that. No, I can't do that.
Oh my god!
Next week we talk about the other drummer.
See, these guys, they stick to their guns, because they won't even tell their guests what they're talking about next week. So just gonna leave me hanging.
I'll tell you off air.
Pea break.
I'd appreciate it because I'll lose sleep over that shit.
and you'll be waiting 4 more weeks to hear it, because we're dropping the last recording this Monday or Tuesday, and then this one will be 2 weeks from now. So
wait, podcasts aren't live?
Carry it forward. Okay, so why is Matt Cameron? What makes Matt Cameron stand out from the crop? What's the?
Oh, I mean, he technically unbelievable. He's cool as shit. I've always thought that guy was cool. But I like Soundgarden. I've always liked Soundgarden as a band. And I think that it's Superunknown is kind of like all of these fantastic musicians at the peak coming together and creating this, right? And it's not just one guy creating Superunknown. It's all these different parts that come together where they're recording, different demos and bringing it in. And, 2 of these tracks from Matt Cameron make it onto Superunknown, which is, mostly unheard of for a drummer for the most part, let's be honest, right? But, and I mean, Matt Cameron played AOT, so that was the other thing that I thought was awesome, right? When I not first saw that, but when I heard that he was switching to AOT, I was like, that's awesome. So, yeah, I'm a Matt Cameron fan. I always have been, and I mean, really, how fantastic is that? You go from Soundgarden to just playing in Pearl Jam, just because
not just going from, but adding to. I mean, for me, I think Matt Cameron, I love Matt Cameron, by the way. I think he's a fantastic drummer. I think that there are drummers out there that will blow your fucking mind. And I also think that there's drummers out there that will put down what needs to be put down every single time they get behind the kit. And that's Matt Cameron. And I think for me, to sum it up for Matt Cameron, what makes him special is work ethic. The guy is a machine. He's always been on point and work and work and work. Being in two massive bands at the same time.
Yeah, unreal.
Yeah.
And he was on Prodigy record too, so that's also cool as shit.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
So,
Really?
Well, he's done a ton of cool shit.
Yeah. So anyways, Matt Cameron, that's a nice opening to all of this, but Superunknown's a great pick. Whoever picked it that's
Well, it's funny with the Matt Cameron thing, right? Because he joined Soundgarden, 6 years after Soundgarden was a band. And Chris Cornell played drums for the most part for the first couple of EPs that they released since. Well, Soundgarden's been around since 1984.
Something like that,
Yeah.
84, 85.
First album was 88.
And so it's just Chris. Yeah, so it's just Chris, Kim, and Ben. And I think, they brought in Matt Cameron in 89, 90 to relieve Chris of the burden of drumming so he could work on his guitar and vocals.
Yeah.
So it was a long time, man. Like, so you said, Mike, you said, these guys coming together at kind of like the peak. I kind of think of it as these guys all coming together at the start. I mean, Chris Cornell had been doing this since 84 with Soundgarden, but it was just a few EPs that no one had ever heard of. And it wasn't until Bad Motorfinger that people started, Jesus Christ Post for me. Anyway,
Bad Motorfinger in itself is an unbelievable album, man. Yeah.
Fucking voice.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't believe it. But there's a whole backstory there, right? Like Chris, okay, so Andy Wood,
roommate,
Mother Love Bone, right? So but so the story is Chris needed a roommate because he couldn't afford his bills, so he called up Stone Gossard from Pearl Jam, well, at the time Mother Love Bone, and said, I need a roommate. And he's like, well, I'm pretty good. I'm situated. I got a place to live, but I got a guy here. He just got out of jail. He's down on his luck. He needs a place to stay. And that was Andy Wood. So Andy Wood and Chris Cornell ended up living together. But I kind of feel like that was like 88, 89. And Chris was right on the verge of releasing Bad Motorfinger. So, I mean, Andy Wood just moved in with the most popular musician in Seattle, as far as I'm concerned, at the time. So that's a really cool dynamic to have right there, I think.
Well, at the same time, it was really cool too because they were such, they were so competitive in their art and their craft that they would push each other. Where it's like they, either one would get home from a different wherever, and it's like, okay, what'd you write today? And now I gotta run back into my room and I gotta try and something, to beat it, kind of thing. So it was. Super healthy competition. I mean, when you have two creative forces like that just keep continuously pushing each other, it's unreal.
Yeah.
Yeah, the same. They would write, and then they would show each other what they wrote that day, and they would go back into their rooms and they would try to write something better and present it to each other. And I think that's what true musicians do. Like Mike, you and I talked about this earlier about having a creative space for like-minded musicians to work, and it just, you feed off of each other. When you're in that mind space and when you're in that creative room, you can really open up and find, you become more comfortable with the other person too. So you're not afraid to bounce off any ideas off that person, and they'll be subjective and honest as to whether or not they like it or it's going to be good or this or that. And you can immediately take it and improve it and show it back to the person. So I think that dynamic between the two of them living together must have been massive on Chris's future. The way he grew during that time.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it, actually. I think Superunknown is a great album. It's one of those albums where it was all I listened to for a period of time, probably 94 or, you know, sometime around that year.
Yep.
And then I just didn't listen to it anymore. I honestly hadn't picked it back up until like about a week ago, 2 weeks ago. Really. And I don't know what it is. I like, you know, you move on from things and stuff like that. And Soundgarden was always like, you know, in the 90s to me was the like epitome. It was, they were able to take crazy time signatures and not make it sound like jazz. You know what I mean? Like it was so above and beyond what everyone else was doing, but they made it sound like fucking rock and roll or whatever you wanted to call it back then. Grunge. I don't know.
You take something complicated and make it sound simplistic.
Yeah. Make it palatable.
So that it's easy.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly. Palatable.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was very simple when you look at the guitar parts and the tunings. You know, so much of it's just open tunings, and you're barring everything with one finger. So
right.
But to take it to the next level,
absolutely, and that allowed them, you know, sonically to sort of give them this huge, expansive sort of sound where they could just like be plucking one string, you know, to start off a song, and then you're into this huge sounding, you know, like you say, just like an open tuning, and you're getting all of these different tones and not offbeat, but like different time signatures, and you know, Chris's vocals just complementing that.
Well, that's the thing too. Yeah, I mean, I think that you can do all that and have it easy, but then you open up the door for one of the greatest rock vocalists of all time, if not one of the, you know, the best, right? So I mean, it kind of opens up the door that way for him, but I think that was one of the allures for me for Soundgarden, was those crazy time signatures, right? There's so many different ones on there that, you know, even looking at some of them again, you know, some of these are in like 15/8 time. Like, that's insane, you know, but you know, musically on that side, Mike, you're right. Like there's some cool riffs on that album, but there's nothing like, you know, that blows your mind that you could never do as a guitar player. But it's just, I don't know. I think that Chris Cornell brings it all together with that, right? Like it's just that vocal sound is unmistakable.
But in reality too, the way it's laid out, it's not that crazy. I mean, I was in a prog metal band that played songs in 16/15, and it didn't sound weird. It actually sounded like a 4/4 timing, depending on how you put it. But I think with you mentioned, Dana, you mentioned the sound, that the open tuning, that wall of sound that, for lack of a better term, the grunge scene kind of produced. Don't forget the amount of soul put in, like not just Soundgarden, but all those other bands too. Like soul was a big thing in all those bands. Lyrical content and the emotion that was sang with them, especially at Chris's vocals, it's all emotional. It just, and it's weird because now that Chris is gone, you kind of look back on those songs and you hear them differently. You hear the despair, you hear that soul more, and you think to yourself, like, how did I not hear this when I was 16 years old? How did I not hear the despair and the angst in his voice? Like, I heard the lyrics and I loved the sound. But how did I not hear that sadness in his voice?
I'm so happy that you brought that up, because like we've been sort of discussing what grunge was and how it was defined and how it is defined now. And like, you take, you know, the scene that they sort of transcended from, which was like hair metal or, you know, what have you. They took metal and injected this sort of very attainable emotion. They talked about real stuff and sang about death and also happiness. And it was, for me, I remember, you know, when this stuff was coming out, I was like 14 and just being so emotionally like connected with Chris and screaming about shit that wasn't about chicks and fucking, you know, whatever else. Right. He was talking about like stuff that I was just beginning to like understand, maybe not even understand, like just getting like okay, like I kind of feel like how this guy is singing about. And like, I think Superunknown was really one of those, again, like very, very attainable albums that allowed me to sort of like go through those emotions and bang my head at the same time. Right. Like,
Right.
That's what makes it so fucking amazing. And it's so easy to forget like how powerful, I guess, whatever you want to call it, grunge was. We seem to forget like all of the emotion that was, within those songs and within those lyrics and the passion behind it. It was like, it's really special. And I know I'm going on here, and it's probably this driftwood view field kicking in, but
no, but you're exactly right, Dana. I mean, I know that grunge is not the greatest term to use for a lot of these bands, but neither is alternative rock. I would say that genre of music, though, that group of 7, 8, 9, 10 bands, it really captured the angst of our generation. It really let the 13, 14, 15-year-olds at that time understand themselves more through that music. It made me personally feel like I was, 94, I was 14, 15 years old. And 13 years old. And it really, it let me feel okay to feel these things. Whereas now people are online screaming at you, yes, it's okay to feel these things. Yes, it's okay to feel these things. You are allowed to feel sad. When we were kids, it wasn't like that. You weren't allowed to feel sad. You weren't allowed to feel like that. But that music made me feel like it was okay to express myself the way that I feel. And that's probably the reason why it's so important to me even now. So I think you're exactly right, Dana.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So I don't know. Like it's crazy. Like Mike, I think you picked Superunknown a couple weeks ago, and I was like, oh yeah. But fuck, as soon as I put it in, I was banging my head and just like whoosh, it was like a time machine, man. I just felt like I was 14, 15 again, just like trying to like fucking like sing like Chris and
like Dana, you said earlier, like you listened to it a lot when you were that age, and then you just didn't listen to it anymore. It made me think. Like I work a lot with a good friend of mine, Scott Middleton. You might know him from Cancer Bats. I work with him quite often, and we have a lot of these conversations about when we were younger and things like that, because we're roughly the same age as well. And he explained it the best to me, even when I was recording an album with him. Music is, when you record it at an album, it's a snapshot of a specific moment in time. And not only is it a snapshot of that moment in time, but it's a snapshot of your moment in life and how you feel and how you think and your ideals at that time. So, as a person, you grow, you change, you come across different opinions, you do different things in your life. So it makes perfect sense for you to listen to an album and be enveloped in that album for a specific amount of time and then move on from it. But then later on in life, you can come back to it and totally appreciate it and totally love it the same way you did way back when.
Yeah, I came back
from
to
a very
it,
different angle. Yeah,
that's it too. Yeah, absolutely, Mike.
Right. Yeah, you see it. You see it differently. You see it more broadly, which is great. I love that feeling when you come back to something and you say, wow, there's all these things that I listen to that album every single day. Like I did it with Sepultura Arise.
Such a great album.
I'm a huge Max Cavalera fan. And I listened, the tape actually got stuck in my Walkman for like 6 months and I couldn't get it out. So all I did was listen to side one. Side one of Arise for like 6 months walking to school. And I listened to it every single day. And I thought I knew that album inside and out. And then 15 years later, I pop it in and I hear 10 new things that I never thought I did before.
It's like a bottle of wine, man.
So, I love that about music. Man.
I got back into it when they did the re-release, the reissue of it. And
20 year.
Yeah. And I hadn't, I was like you, Dane, I hadn't listened to it in a long time and I had listened to it a ton. I had gone back to Bad Motorfinger quite a bit. But I didn't go back to Superunknown. And even when I listen to Superunknown now, I really like the unreleased tracks on there, maybe more than the other ones, right? Like I don't listen to Spoon Man. Yeah, like I
She Likes
listen to like
Surprises.
even those ones too, right? Like even on the unreleased stuff, or like I really like the demo versions that they've got on the new the new versions, and they've got a 5.1 surround sound one, which would be awesome to listen to too, right? Like that would, and they've got this
Right.
visual Blu-ray disc that goes along with the lyrics, and you can just like trance out with it. It would be awesome. But yeah, it's neat how you can come back to that and snap back into that part of your life, but also find meaning in it, in what you're going through today, right? Because I think that there's still some of those things that you're experiencing today that you were experiencing back then that have kind of come full circle, and you still relate to it, right? And knowing all that you know now, you kind of go back and start thinking about what you were like back when you were 14 and 15, and how much you did not know and how much you still don't know at age 40, right? Like it's those things. It's
Right.
comforting though to come back to that album. For me, it's just when I hear those songs again, it puts you in that place, and it makes you feel comforted. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, this was an interesting revisit for me too. I mean, when I remember listening to it for the first, couple years, I didn't pay attention to the lyrics much. I was never really a lyrics guy, but I dissected the album musically, and I wanted to find every little loophole and how they put it together. And then going back now, I didn't realize, because not being much of a lyrics person, how dark and depressing all of these songs are, but they're sung with so much there's so much power, and like it's entertaining. Like it's not woe is me, but it's woe is me kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So like it's not put out that way, but the lyrics are there, and I didn't realize how dark it was until revisiting it recently. So yeah,
Emphatic emotion. Just like it's just pouring out, yeah. And you can see that now even more.
and especially after his death. I mean, when you look back at his career, and I know mental illness and depression is such a horrible thing to deal with. But when you look at someone like that, and they don't really, in the grand scheme of things, they don't seem to show that all the time. And then when you go back after his death and you listen to Superunknown, it's like, wow,
Yeah.
now you could like, it's almost like his suicide note kind of thing.
Yeah.
How did you not hear that when you were 14 years old? How did you not? You know what
I was
mean? Like,
focusing
that's what
on
I'm
the
saying.
music, man. I wanted to get the riffs. I wanted to get the time signatures. I
Right.
loved the drums. Like it was
Exactly.
more of the instrumental side. And then now you go back, it's like, holy shit, this is unreal. So
Yeah.
It's funny too. Even Mike, you had mentioned with all of the songs that they had released on those secret songs and releases on the 20th anniversary tracks, things like that. Did you know that when they went into the studio, what was it? Bad Animal Studios in Seattle,
Yep.
where they recorded Superunknown with Michael Beanhorn was the producer at the time. He was a visionary.
Interesting cat,
He really brought out their musical. So anyway, they went into the album with like 26 or 27 songs on the docket to record for Superunknown. They had actually intended on recording that many songs for the album, and ended up recording like 16. I think they released 15, and then 16. I think She Likes Surprises was the 16th song, and they only released that in certain countries. But the reason they only released 16 songs is because they ran out of time, because they actually took 2 weeks off of recording to tour with me again.
So cool.
How cool is that?
Yeah. And they opened up for GNR too, and they said too, like they playing and opening up for GNR, 60,000 people don't even give a shit about Soundgarden, right? Like, no, at that time they're like, they don't care,
Don't
man.
even
Like,
give a shit.
so
Don't even give a shit. Yeah. Oh, well, the thing is, though, Soundgarden didn't care about that either, because they wanted to play Soundgarden shows. they were very much against festivals and opening up for bigger bands. They really just wanted to play Soundgarden shows. And a lot of Seattle bands were like that. You go to a Pearl Jam show now, like my wife and I travel all over North America and follow Pearl Jam. I mean, I've seen them in Seattle, I've seen them in Boston, Chicago, New York. We've traveled all over the place, all across Canada to see Pearl Jam. And they rarely have an opener. And it's not because they're huge, it's because they're showcasing their music. And it's a 3-hour event. I mean, and Soundgarden was the same way. They didn't want to play festivals. They didn't want to. They turned down Woodstock '94. They were begged. They were absolutely begged to play Woodstock '94. Hell, they won 2 Grammys in '95 for Spoon Man and Black Hole Sun. I mean, Woodstock. They were begging Soundgarden to play that show, and they turned it down because no, we're not interested in playing festivals. Sorry, guys, we're interested in playing our music, our showcase.
Man, the last time I saw Pearl Jam, Mudhoney opened up for them, which was
Wow.
Where and when was that?
That was in Edmonton. The last
Hamilton.
time I saw them,
Oh my God.
I don't know, 8 years ago, something like that. It was like it was like 90. Felt like I was in '94. Like I never saw Mudhoney or Pearl Jam in '94, but Eddie was climbing on the railings up top,
Rafters,
and like guys from Mudhoney, Mudhoney were coming out, and he was giving them like piggybacks. I was like, this is awesome.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, they did the same thing in Hamilton, and they came and Mudhoney came out. I was blown away.
Man.
Oh my God. Oh, funny story about Mudhoney. Sorry to interrupt. I was in Seattle. What was it? 2018, 2019 for Sub Pop's 30th anniversary at Alki Beach, and we went down to the beach and we were touring around. There's like 20,000 people down there. It was ridiculous how packed it was, and there's just these little stages set up in the street. If you know Alki Beach. There's just these stages set up, and like I just walked up on a stage and Metz was playing. I was like, oh my God, I'm just like sitting here and Metz is playing all of a sudden. And then I'm walking further down, and sure enough, it was like 4:00 in the afternoon on a Sunday, and here's Mudhoney playing this little side stage. And I just walk around the side of the stage, I'm front row, and I get to see a full hour of Mudhoney, just like, what's going on here? Oh, it's so fantastic. I love that band.
Yeah, shit.
I got a question. Sorry, Dan. I got a question for you guys.
Go for it.
Do you guys think that the fact that this album came out a month before Kurt died helped it commercially?
Ooh.
No, because I think they, with Bad Motorfinger and Louder Than Love, I mean, they all already had their fan base growing.
Yeah, but they weren't reaching the popular masses, though.
Well, they were getting there while, in that time, they were definitely getting there. As soon as Nevermind dropped, everyone jumped on every band from Seattle. So they were, within a year of that, like they were almost household names for the most part, right? And the amount of touring they did.
I do remember seeing Jesus Christ Pose on Much Music and it blowing my mind. And that was before Nevermind.
Yeah.
I think.
I think that Chris Cornell, especially, and Soundgarden, like I said before, prior to even the start of Nirvana, were already very popular within the Washington scene. I think they were very well known. The fact that Superunknown was released in '94 and then Kurt died, Kurt's music blew up. We all know Nirvana's music blew up when Kurt died. I mean, it was big before, but it was massive after he died. And Soundgarden still went on in '95 to win 2 Grammys over Pearl Jam and Nirvana. So I don't think that had anything to do with Kurt's death. I think that had to do mostly with the power of Soundgarden, how popular they were over and above these bands that were portrayed across North America as mainstream. Whereas in reality, Soundgarden was the band in that area at that time. They weren't internationally broadcasted like Nirvana.
I agree with you. Yeah, I wanted your guys' opinion on that. I just thought that the correlation between the two was, I don't know if there was one, right? But yeah.
coincidental for sure. And I'm sure it added to the like the eyeballs, right? So when Kurt died, like you said, all eyeballs turned to Seattle, and that really, I mean, I don't want to say it kicked off grunge, but like Kurt's death sure did a hell of a lot for that grunge scene in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting to think about, though. I mean, when you think about, like, you know, there were fans like us listening to the music, and we were sort of like, we knew what was going on, and we had our bands that we liked, and it was within this sort of like grunge category. But you got to think about the people who had never heard of Soundgarden or Pearl Jam or Nirvana until Kurt's death, right? So I'm sure it had, like you said, Ryan, like there were eyeballs on it, and you know, if anything, it's sort of like extended the whole, whatever you want to call it, scene, or you know, making it a mainstream type of thing. But I think that Soundgarden, they obviously attained like mainstream success, and like Black Hole Sun was probably one of their more popular songs. But at the same time, they took their art form and they made it fit within a genre. Like back then, like what the fuck were people listening to? Aqua? I'm trying to think like what was what right? Like it was like, what were they contending with? Michael Jackson? It was just something. Yeah.
They had to go poppy though. Bad Motorfinger was a heavy metal album.
And like,
you know, it was, they definitely changed.
But they took,
I'm sure.
Let's just say they entered that arena, like the mainstream arena, and kept it, like you said, like they did it by their rules, right? I think they really educated people and really sort of, you know, brought the flag of like whatever this music was that people were having a hard time defining, you know?
Yeah. And I think that Down on the Upside is like the exclamation point to the entire Soundgarden. I love Down on the Upside, right? Like I think it's just a perfect kind of bookend. And you can talk about King Animal later on, but that's not the same. I keep that in that canon with that, right? And I there's something about that album too that I absolutely love, and it's totally different than Battered Motorfinger, totally different than Superunknown, but really cool on its own. There's some really cool tracks on that album. So
yeah.
Well, every Soundgarden album has had its own niche as far as sound and vibe, I think. I don't think any two Soundgarden albums sound alike as far as the vibe is concerned. Because really, I mean, when you talk about the writing, okay, so the earlier albums, a lot of the stuff was written by Ben, as far as like the musically goes. And then lyrically, of course, Chris has always taken the reins on that. And then when Matt joined the band, obviously a lot of that wall of sound came through because, man, did he ever bring it on the drums. But each individual album, I think, is, like I said before, a snapshot of a moment in time in Chris's life. What he was battling at that time, what his sense of the world was at that time. So really, none of them are going to sound alike. And all of the musicians, as far as Ben and Matt are concerned, and Kim, they've all evolved as musicians. So their musical stylings, their tones, their playing styles, they've all evolved as time goes on. So you can't really, like a lot of bands, you look at their albums, you go, like, I like the early stuff as opposed to the later stuff, because the early stuff sounds one way, the later stuff sounds another way. Whereas Soundgarden is a progression through time. Each individual album sounds different, more evolved, and a different vibe as you move on. So that's really special, I think, for a band to do.
Yeah, it's not common.
Yeah.
No.
And especially being in that genre. I mean, when you look at, so Superunknown came out, Cobain died. So now you're looking at, you know, this is the tail end of the quote unquote grunge thing, right? So, because when Kurt died, it basically left this huge gap, and people started searching for something a little different. And I think that's why, you know, you start getting bands that are big like NoFX and Like it changed from the Seattle sound to the SoCal punk sound, right? And then when you get to Down on the Outside, it's like their goodbye to grunge, I guess, or the scene or whatever, right?
That's a good way to put it, because it was kind of like the tail end of like the real like hard Seattle grunge scene. I mean, Alice in Chains kept it alive for a very long time, but they were always metal. Like, let's face it, Alice in Chains was never grunge. They were always metal. But because of where they were from and their connections and like the type of music that they played, they always were considered in the same kind of grouping as that. And they've always done the same thing. Like even now, Jerry Cantrell's writing stuff that's just as good as it was in 93, 94. I mean, it's fantastic. But I think you're right. Down on the Upside just kind of like was like a goodbye to like that era of music. Yeah, and you weren't going to get any more out of Kurt, obviously. But again, like with the albums and the change and stuff, I love Nirvana. Always loved Nirvana. But all their albums sound similar as far as tone, music, lyrical content. It's like they had 100 songs, but they couldn't put them all on one album. So they just made one after the other. And they literally did. They literally did make one after another. I don't think they had 1 year where they didn't have a release.
But there is a huge difference when you get a different producer in there, when you get Steve Albini, and how he changed their sound. Like it was a massive change, even if the writing wasn't a huge change. Like sound wise, it was massive.
Totally. Yeah. They don't sound the same on In Utero than they do on Nevermind. Not even close. But
yeah, the tones definitely improved and changed for sure. Mm-hmm. I think I mean more vibe and lyrical content, because it all came from the same Tortured Mind. Well, let's face it. I mean, and he was stuck in that. So I don't think that there was any way you were going to see a change in lyrical content come from Kurt, as long as he battled with what he battled with, and he battled with that his entire career. Until allegedly Courtney. So.
I'm sorry, again, I'm laughing at this stuff, but like Mike brought this up like a while ago, and I was just like, we should have a podcast.
Let's not go there, because you cannot argue with me. The bitch.
We're gonna have an episode on that specifically at some point, and I'm pretty sure we're all in agreement. So
I don't know, man.
There's a conversation to be had there.
Damn it. Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I don't know if Nirvana had another album in them, and Soundgarden. Obviously, they had what was the last album that they released
for Soundgarden?
King Animal one. That was
King Animal in 2012.
Yeah.
2012, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
oddly enough, right after the remaster,
right? Yeah. So I'm sure there was a lot of like revisiting stuff and rehashing old ideas and things like that. But I think as far as like longevity and I don't know, like Nirvana was another band that I was just like, put it down, and that was it. I had like my intense relationship with that sort of time and what it meant to me. And then I just recently got back into checking out live video and sort of rarities that are now not so rare on YouTube, and just really loving Nirvana again. But I don't think they had the wheels Soundgarden just seemed as though they were really for Nirvana. It seemed to me more of a statement. I hate to say it, but for me, it seemed like more of a statement, and what a statement it was. But Soundgarden was more just like musicians kind of exploring the territory, right? Maybe with a little bit more. I mean, there was some road, or let's just say there was room to explore due to the fact of the popularity of Nirvana at the time. But I think Soundgarden, they sort of had this space where they could play around with different sounds and different time signatures and lyrical content and everything. And they did it so well. And that's where, I mean, even as a kid, I knew like this band was fucking awesome. And like, you know, like our friend Kev would walk around with a Bad Motorfinger t-shirt on and fuck yeah, like Soundgarden, they're awesome. And it's interesting to see what happened afterwards. Like sort of the, you know, I guess that would have been the early, when did Chris release his solo stuff? And for me, that was such a, I don't want to say letdown, but it was a fucking letdown. I was just like, dude, like I get it. You've reached like the highest heights, and you know, as far as I was concerned, as like a young, you know, like kid who was into music and whatever, and Chris Cornell released his solo stuff, and I was just like super underwhelmed. And
well, he needed to do something else.
He needed to do something else.
And you talk about a band that has, you know, you say they don't have the wheels to get them, you know, on. But if you look at almost any band, pretty much it's like a 6-year shelf life. So from the start of the band till they break up, most bands are usually about 6 or 7 years and they're done. So
except for the Chili Peppers.
Well, they haven't, fucking one good album, the one album wonders.
You know, Chris Cornell should have been like, I thought he was going to be like Robert Plant, right? I thought it was going to be like did his Zeppelin, and then he had these solo albums that he just kind of
the Honey Drippers.
Yeah, and he just kind of did that stuff for his elder statesmen, and he would, you know, show up on people's records. I thought that's what he was going to kind of do when he started doing that stuff, right? And obviously that never materialized into that, but yeah, I mean, I was underwhelmed by his solo stuff, but at the same time, I think, there's something he had to do, and I think that was the next progression for him. But he did Audio Slave too, right? I mean, you can say what you want about Audio Slave, but I mean, you know, that was something else. You know, that was a different project, but you know, but I agree.
And it felt great when they came out, right? It was like good.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Mike and Dana, I think you're absolutely right. When you say, you know, when his solo stuff came out, you were underwhelmed. I think that's totally fair for the time. Like when you were 14, 15, 16, whatever age you were at that time when that stuff came out, when you're that young, you have these expectations of what music should be, especially a particular artist's music. You expect them to release something that you're going to love because you love their other stuff. So it brings me back to that like snapshot in the moment of time thing. Like you say, you know, when he brought out his solo stuff, I was underwhelmed at that time. If you go back now and listen to his solo stuff, it's a completely different vibe. It's a completely different feeling towards it. You're going to look at that stuff and go, wow. Like I saw Chris at Massey Hall in Toronto in like 2014 or 15. He performed 3 hours of this. I had front row seats. It was amazing. He had performed 3 hours of a solo acoustic set, and he wailed for 3 hours. He wailed. I went through every single emotion I could possibly think of, and the guy drank half of a bottle of water. And as a vocalist myself, for 3 hours I was fixated on this guy, and he played all of his solo things, and I went through, like I said, every emotion. I almost cried listening to this guy like break glass with his vocals. They're so powerful. So I can see that 15-year-old me would look at that on an album and go, I don't really like it. It's too poppy. It's too John Mayer, you know, it's too whatever. But in reality, if you go back and you listen to it with a musical sense, you're just blown away by the emotion that he was able to convey in his solo music. Not every song is great. Obviously, there were some songs that were just, you know, studio written and kind of just didn't go over very well. But some of the stuff, man.
Yeah,
I
and really,
couldn't believe
he was 10 years
But
10 years past us, right? So when we're listening to him
Absolutely.
at this time, and he's changing into another musical path, he's already like a decade ahead of us. So of course, it's not going to be for us.
That's a good point.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know what? Yeah. I was just this morning, I was trying to explain to my fiance how amazing it was to see an episode of That Pedal Show with Baroness on it.
Awesome. So good.
You don't understand. It's they use single coils and Fender amps, and they're a metal band. It's just crazy. And yeah, I mean, like, she asked like a couple questions and was like really trying to like humor me a little bit, but I was just like, no. This is so amazing. Like, it's one of those, yeah. It's just one of those things where I think, like, if you choose to go down the rabbit hole, it's deep. It's super deep and awesome.
Very.
But it always blows my mind when I talk to someone and they're just like, I don't really listen to music. And you're like, okay, so let's talk about something else.
Okay, so we officially can't be friends.
Okay. Well, no, but it's just like,
And we're done here.